There was once a wealthy merchant named Maziokori who lived in the heart of Umudike, a thriving village known for its fertile land and bustling markets. Maziokori was a man of great wisdom and had built his fortune through hard work and fair dealings. His large compound stood at the center of the village, with tall palm trees swaying in the breeze and a wooden gate that never closed to strangers. But despite his wealth, Mazi Okorie had a heavy heart. His only son, Obinna, had grown up with every luxury, fine clothes, the best food, and the respect of everyone in the village simply because of his father's name. But as the years passed, Mazi Okorie noticed something troubling. Obinna had no patience for the poor. He never greeted the elders properly. He looked down on the farmers and traders who made the village strong. And worst of all, he showed no gratitude for what he had. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the villagers gathered to share stories under the great Iroko tree, Mazi Okorie called his lifelong friend, Pa Dyke, for counsel. "My friend," Mazi Okorie began, stroking his greying beard, "I have given my son everything, yet I fear I have failed him. He does not respect those who labor. He sees wealth as his birthright, not something earned. How do I open his eyes?" Pa Dyke chuckled, his wrinkled face full of knowing. "A stubborn yam does not cook in an empty pot. If you want him to understand the struggles of others, he must taste hardship himself." And so, that night, an idea took root in Mazi Okorie's mind. He would test his son. A week later, news spread through Umudike that Mazi Okorie had fallen ill. Some said it was a fever, others whispered that he was dying. His large house, once filled with laughter, grew quiet. Then, on the third day, a new beggar appeared in the village. He was an old man with dusty feet, torn clothes, and a back bent from years of hardship. He walked with a limp and carried a wooden staff. His face was covered in a rough beard, and his voice was hoarse like dry Harmattan wind. Nobody knew it was Mazi Okorie himself. He first went to the village square, where traders shouted their prices and women balanced baskets of plantains on their heads. He sat near Obinna's stall, where the young man sold bags of rice and palm oil. "Nah, please," the beggar rasped, extending a trembling hand. "I have not eaten today. Just a handful of rice to cook. That is all I ask." Obinna looked at him with disgust. "Do I look like a charity? If you cannot buy, move aside." The beggar sighed and shuffled away, but he was not done. That evening, he knocked on the gates of the great house, the very house he had built with his own hands. The guards sneered but allowed him inside, thinking Obinna would send him away quickly. When Obinna saw him standing there, his lip curled in irritation. "What is it this time?" "I seek shelter for the night, my son," the beggar said, bowing his head. "Just a space near the fire to keep warm." Obinna shook his head. "This is not a home for vagrants. Go and find a place under the trees." And so the old man left, his heart heavy. For 3 more days, the beggar tried to seek kindness from Obinna. Each time the young man turned him away, his impatience growing. But one evening, something changed. The beggar, tired and weak, collapsed just outside the compound. A woman passing by saw him and rushed to help. It was Neka, Obinna's childhood friend, now a humble widow who sold vegetables in the market. "Baba, are you all right?" she asked, kneeling beside him. "I have not eaten in days," he whispered. Without hesitation, Neka removed the wrapper from her waist, spread it on the ground, and sat him down. She opened her basket, took out some roasted yam, and placed it in his hands. "Eat, Baba. No one should go hungry in this village." As she helped him sip water from a gourd, Obinna came out of the compound and saw them, his face twisted in anger. "Neka, why are you wasting your food on this useless old man?" he snapped. Neka stood up slowly, dusting her hands. "Wasting? Obinna, you sit in your father's house enjoying wealth you did not earn, and you call helping another person a waste?" Obinna scoffed. "If he is hungry, let him work." Life is not for the weak. Nneka shook her head. One day, life will teach you the lesson you refuse to learn. With that, she walked away, leaving Obinna fuming. The next morning, a great drum sounded across Umudike. The village elders had gathered at the palace square, and Mazi Okori's compound doors were flung open. The beggar was nowhere to be seen. Instead, in his place, Mazi Okori himself stepped out, strong, clean-shaven, and dressed in his finest agbada. Gasps filled the air. Obinna's face went pale. "Papa?" he stammered. Mazi Okori's voice boomed. "My son, for days I sat at your gate. I begged at your stall. I asked you for kindness, not wealth. And what did you give me?" Obinna fell to his knees, shame burning his skin. "Forgive me, Papa. I did not know it was you." Mazi Okori sighed, his eyes filled with sadness. "And if it was not me, would that make your actions right?" Silence settled over the village. The elders nodded solemnly. "Wealth without kindness is an empty shell," Mazi Okori continued. "I have given you everything, but I have failed to teach you the most important lesson. A good name is worth more than riches." Obinna's shoulders shook. "I see my mistakes, Papa. I will change." Mazi Okori looked at him for a long moment. Then he nodded. "You will start again, my son. From today, you will work in the fields with the farmers, sit in the market with the traders, and serve the elders in the village. Only then will you understand the true meaning of wealth." The villagers murmured in agreement. And so, Obinna began his journey, not as the son of a wealthy man, but as a student of life. It was the lesson he should have learned long ago, and it was one he would never forget.